Ambassador Zethkar's crystalline form trembled as she stood before the Galactic Council's emergency assembly. The holographic displays surrounding the amphitheater showed the devastating aftermath of the hegemony's assault on the human colony of New Eden. Smoking craters where cities once thrived, twisted metal where orbital stations had welcomed traders from across the galaxy. "The humans have made their position clear," she announced, her voice carrying through the translation matrices to over 300 species representatives. "They reject our terms for ceasefire." A collective ripple of unease passed through the assembly. The Veltar hegemony had expected swift capitulation after their overwhelming display of force. New Eden had been chosen precisely because it was defenseless, a farming world with barely 10,000 inhabitants and no military installations. "Surely they understand the futility of resistance," rumbled General Thakmor, his 6 arms gesturing dismissively. "We have demonstrated our superior firepower. Their colony is ash." Zethkar's internal luminescence dimmed. She had been Earth's first alien ambassador, had lived among humans for over a decade before the hegemony's expansion brought inevitable conflict. She understood what the other council members did not. The human representative's exact words were, "You started this. We'll finish it." High Admiral Creason, whose aquatic species had never encountered humans in battle, bubbled with what his people considered laughter. "One backwater species against the combined might of the hegemony? Their entire fleet consists of cargo haulers and system patrol craft." 3 days later, the laughter died. The first hegemony patrol to vanish was chalked up to mechanical failure. The second disappearance raised questions. By the time 6 full battle groups had gone silent in human space, panic had set in among the hegemony's leadership. The videos began arriving soon after, footage from the few survivors who managed to escape in life pods. They showed something the galaxy had never seen: human cargo vessels, hastily retrofitted with weapons that violated every civilized convention of warfare. Kinetic bombardment systems that turned asteroids into planet-killing projectiles. Fusion warheads strapped to ramshackle fighters piloted by volunteers with nothing left to lose. But it wasn't just the weapons that horrified the hegemony's survivors. It was the humans themselves. "They don't fight like any species we've encountered," reported Captain Velthos, his mandibles clicking nervously as he addressed the council. "No formation protocols, no honor codes, no rules of engagement. They use their own ships as weapons, ramming our vessels at full acceleration. We've detected human life signs aboard derelict craft continuing to fire, until the very moment their life support fails." The feed from the battle at Kepler Station showed what he meant. A human destroyer, engines dead and hull breached in 17 places, had drifted into the middle of a hegemony formation. The crew, wearing improvised pressure suits made from cargo containers and emergency oxygen, had manually targeted and fired every remaining weapon until the reactor core finally gave out. The message was always the same, broadcast on all frequencies as human ships approached. "You started this. We'll finish it." Within 2 weeks, the hegemony's expansion fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors hiding in asteroid fields. The humans had somehow transformed their merchant marine into an unstoppable force of destruction, each ship crewed by individuals who seemed to have made peace with their own mortality. Ambassador Zethkar watched the council chambers descend into chaos as species after species withdrew their support for the hegemony's human campaign. She had tried to warn them, had explained human history to anyone who would listen, how the species had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare against their own kind, how they had survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and self-inflicted near extinctions through sheer bloody-minded refusal to surrender. The decisive moment came at the Battle of Wolf 359, where a single human carrier, converted from a mining platform and crewed by former colonists from New Eden, faced down the remainder of the hegemony's core fleet. The carrier's fighters were agricultural shuttles with missile pods welded to their hulls. Its crew consisted of farmers, teachers, and shopkeepers who had learned to operate military-grade systems through jury-rigged neural interfaces that would have killed most other species. Admiral Creason's flagship lasted 18 minutes. The war ended not with formal surrender, but with the simple cessation of hegemony resistance. Their survivors fled to the galactic rim, leaving behind empty worlds and the smoking remnants of the most powerful military force the galaxy had known. The humans, true to their nature, immediately began converting their weapons back to peaceful purposes. The same cargo haulers that had delivered death to the hegemony now carried medical supplies to their former enemies' refugee camps. Former fighter pilots taught alien children to fly civilian aircraft. The kinetic bombardment platforms were repurposed to clear asteroids for mining operations. At the Council's first post-war session, Ambassador Zethkar stood before her fellow diplomats once more. The humans had sent no representative. They were too busy rebuilding what had been destroyed and helping their former enemies find new homes. "I tried to warn you," she said simply. "Humans have one rule about warfare, developed over 10,000 years of conflict among themselves. They never start wars. Their entire philosophy revolves around peace, cooperation, and mutual benefit." She paused, letting the weight of recent events settle over the assembly. "But once you start a war with them," she continued, her crystalline form pulsing with somber light, "they will not stop until they finish it, completely, utterly, and, on their terms." The Council voted unanimously to establish a permanent human embassy and to classify their homeworld as a protected system, not because humanity was weak and needed protection, but because the galaxy had learned what happened when you pushed too far. Humanity's first rule of war: never start it, always finish it. The survivors of the Veltar hegemony would spend the rest of their days making sure no one ever forgot that lesson.